Hello, I'm Tim Smith with the Adams County Historical Society, and today we're standing at the Jenny Wade House Museum on Baltimore Street in the southern suburbs of Gettysburg. And we're here with another installment of our Battle Babies video series. And again, we're focusing on the last surviving witnesses to the battle. If you happen to miss some of our Battle Babies videos, you can go back in our content on our YouTube channel. And if you like the content we've been putting on our channel, subscribe to our channel, or perhaps share some of our videos with your friends on social media platforms. It seems to me that a lot of our videos start or finish at the Jenny Wade House Museum. Perhaps that's just a coincidence. Susan Teresa McLean was born in Gettysburg in March 1861. So she is about 2 years old at the time of the battle. She lived with her family in the south side of the duplex known as the Jenny Wade House. She died in Baltimore, Maryland on July 26, 1953 at the age of 92. She's buried in New Cathedral Cemetery in Baltimore. I've been there many times. My great-grandparents are buried there. One of the ladies who works in the office is a big fan of ours, and perhaps she'll watch this video. Following Susan's death, it was her niece that donated the clock to the Jenny Wade House Museum, which now sits on the mantle on the kitchen on the McLean side of the dwelling. In 1952, a year prior to her death, Susan visited the Jenny Wade House in Gettysburg and related her story. She told of being in the cellar during the battle with the Wade family and Jenny's body. In her obituary, it was noted that Susie McLean, age 93, as a child had lived in half of the Jenny Wade House during the Battle of Gettysburg and was the only living person who had witnessed the death of the only civilian to die during the battle. Miss McLean was 2 years old then. Now, right at this spot, there was a house at the time of the battle. It was the Rosa Snyder house. Rosa Snyder Gettle was born here in 1859, the daughter of Conrad and Catherine Snyder. So in 1863, in a house that stood right here, she was 4 years old. Rosa died on October 24th, 1954, at age 95 in Wymore, Nebraska. She's buried in Table Rock Cemetery, Pawnee County, Nebraska. We're fortunate that Rosa was interviewed several times concerning her memories of the battle and gave a detailed account of her and her family's experiences in 1944 when she was 85. Her reminiscences are part of the collection that we have at the Adams County Historical Society. She told of the battle, she told of Jenny's death, her neighbor, and of Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. And she said this, which I find interesting. The happenings of those 3 days, July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, were so strongly impressed on the 4-year-old child's mind that even the small details are remembered today. According to Rosa, it is as vivid as an event of yesterday. I can remember it all so clearly. In the 1944 interview, it was stated that as far as is known, Mrs. Gettle is the only living inhabitant of Gettysburg who was there at the time of the battle. As has already been shown, this was clearly not the case. And when she died in 1954, she was still not the last surviving resident of Gettysburg. So let's talk about a couple more. So there are a couple girls buried in Evergreen Cemetery here that are a little bit older than Rosa. Carolyn Louise Ziegler Stein was born in Gettysburg on November 29, 1859. She was the daughter of Waybright Ziegler and Elizabeth Martin. That couple had completed construction of a large 3-story brick house on West Middle Street earlier that year. That building still stands today at 64 West Middle Street. Waybright Ziegler died in 1861, but there is every indication that his widow and children were still living at the time of the battle in that house and were there during the fighting. Carolyn died in Baltimore, Maryland on February 22, 1955, at age 96, and is buried here in Evergreen Cemetery. Myra Rebecca Culp was born on March 13, 1862, and was just 15 months old at the time of the battle. She was the daughter of Jeremiah and Rebecca Culp, and the brother of Jeremiah Meade Culp, the battle baby, who was born on July 4th, 1863, and was the subject of one of our other videos. At the time of her death, on September 22nd, 1957, Myra was 95 years old. According to her obituary, she was, quote, one of the last survivors among those who were residents of Gettysburg at the time of the battle here. She often told how she, then but an infant, and her parents hid in the basement of her parents' home, 141 York Street. And Myra was not just the one of the last survivors. As far as I've been able to ascertain, it would seem that Myra was the last surviving witness to the battle. She was clearly in town during the fighting, and shells passed over her house during the battle. Some final thoughts, however. In our first video at Flores Church Cemetery, we mentioned John Upton Cook of Cashtown, who lived until January 1958, and William Henry Collison, who lived until February 1959. But there are a few others we should mention. Alice Biddinger Doherty was born on January 6, 1863, the daughter of George Biddinger and Belle Christ. She was almost 7 months old at the time of the battle, and she died on February 4th, 1958, at age 95, and was buried in Greenmount Cemetery in Arntsville. According to her death notice, she was born between Arntsville and Gettysburg. George F. Doherty, right here, was born on May 30th, 1863, the son of David Doherty and Elizabeth Jane Herbst. In the 1860 census, David was single and a laborer working for John Herbst. Eliza's brother in Cumberland Township. In the 1863 draft list, David was shown in Highland Township a little further to the west of Gettysburg. So George F. Doherty died on March 9, 1858, at the age of 94 here. John Biddinger Bayshore, son of Jacob Bayshore and Lydia Biddinger, was born in Littlestown on March 19, 1862. So he was 15 months old at the time of the battle. He died in Philadelphia in July of 1958 at age 96, and he's buried in Mount Carmel Cemetery in Littlestown. Rosella H. Sadler Griffin, the daughter of Samuel Sadler and Nancy Lease, was born in Tyrone Township on March 4th, 1864. Her father was a tavern keeper in Heidlersburg at the time of the Civil War and also owned a nearby farm. Robert Rhodes' Confederate Division occupied the area on June 30th, 1863, the night before the battle. According to a claim filed by Samuel Sadler, the Southerners destroyed 600 of his fence rails, most likely in their campfires. And they took 12 tons of hay from his barn. So even though Rosella was only 4 months old at the time of the battle, she would be present during the Confederate occupation and may have had a direct contact with the soldiers in the battle. She died in New Oxford on November 20th, 1962, at age 99, and is buried in New Oxford's town cemetery. So we're still a year away from when I was born. Mary Trossel Lau, daughter of Peter Trossel and Sarah Ann Bullinger, was born on January 9, 1863. She was 6 months old at the time of the battle. Mary died on May 21st, 1969, at age 106. She is buried in East Berlin, but she was technically born in Paradise Township, York County, just outside the Adams County border. Juba Early's troops would have passed by her house, but that's more of a York County invasion story and not a Battle of Gettysburg story. So there you have it. As a local institution, the Adams County Historical Society is greatly interested in all genealogical matters, such as we've been presenting here. But I suspect that my list is not complete. You know, there could be girls who lived in Gettysburg at the time of the battle, who married and then moved away, and since I do not know their married names, I have not located them, and there could be some other ones to add to our list. We hope you have enjoyed our discourse on the last surviving witnesses of the battle, and we encourage you to add your own suggestions or discoveries in the comments section and below the video here. Well, thank you.